I'm Aaron Davidson. Welcome to Long Range Pursuit. On today's show, we're hunting with our good friends in Colorado, Trent and Cheryl Snyder with Silver Spur Outfitters. They have a great ranch, some great properties, and they manage their animals very well. They've got some big mule deer and some elk that hang on their property. Now, this group of elk, they're real careful not to hunt where they bed, and we had a hard time catching them out in the open early enough in the morning. So we set up on a big knob, and we had to take a longer than usual shot. This is over a half-mile shot on a big bull elk. So on today's shooting tips, we're going to break it into a 4-part series on the basic shooting fundamentals. Now, if you're a beginner, there should be a lot of information here for you to get started with, and hopefully if you're an expert and you're a proficient long-range shooter, there's still some information here that you haven't thought about before that can help make you even better at your long-range shooting.
On this hunt, the way they manage this property, there's a lot of public that surrounds it. And so the idea is the elk that are here, let's not run them off, let's keep them here. And so they try to hunt real easy and real carefully to make sure they don't do that. So one of the things that we're doing is we're hunting on the outside edges of where the elk congregate. And so with our systems that we have with the long-range guns, it kind of gives some unique opportunities for hunting, because we do have the capability of shooting, out to 800, 900 yards.
This particular ranch, the Triple J Ranch, it's well known locally for its huge amounts of elk. We've done a lot of management, we've done a lot of clearing, and we've planted some alfalfa, and we can really hold the elk here. And we're starting to get some pretty good size on our bulls. We used to shoot small bulls, and now we're getting some 300s up into the 340 classes.
First morning, seen some elk over there and heard some bugling. No big bulls. Cheryl says they'll slip up in the brush pretty early here. A lot better evening hunt. They come out a little early.
In our first tip, we want to talk about rifle fit. That's a real important, all-encompassing topic. We're going to talk about the rifle fit in your shoulder, your grip, your body position, etc. The first thing let's talk about is the grip. Your grip does a lot of things. You want to prevent your rifle from torquing, so we're going to lay our thumb up instead of wrapping it around. The second part is you need to squeeze the trigger, not pull it or jerk it. We need to squeeze the trigger, but we also need to put some pressure into our shoulder so our rifle behaves consistently. So we're going to pull 5 to 10 pounds back into our shoulder. We're going to use our pinky and ring finger to do that. Consciously use your pinky and ring finger, and that's the furthest fingers away from your trigger finger. So 5 to 10 pounds back into your shoulder, lay your thumb up on your grip so you can't torque your rifle when you fire it. Now the second part of this of rifle fit is anchoring your cheek onto the rifle stock. Now the comb has varying heights. Some are flat, some drop away. It's important that we have the right anchor point so that our fitment into the scope and our sight picture is correct. A lot of guys try to anchor off their cheek down here low on the stock. Now if your rings aren't completely perfect for your height, or if you're in a different shooting position, that solid anchor point doesn't have a lot of flexibility. I prefer to anchor off my jaw back on the back of the comb. And when I do that, I can tip my head forward or back and raise my eye up or down to fit that sight picture. And I've noticed a lot of guys shooting struggle with sight picture when we get into prone position, and this is a great fix to allow you to raise your head back up, still have a solid anchor point, and get correct sight picture. The last part of that anchor point face interface with your stock is getting good down pressure on your rifle stock. That does a couple things. One, it forces you to have a good anchor point that's repeatable, and it also puts down pressure on this rear bag. When you put down pressure on that rear bag, it makes sure that your shot isn't floating on the bag and you don't shoot low or high because you're not solid and consistent. So good down pressure with your face on the stock gives you a good anchor point, and it also forces you to have good down pressure on your rear bag. Now finally, you talk a little bit about body position. It's important that you get in position that is comfortable, that you can maintain over time without inducing fatigue, without seeing some body tremors from muscles getting wore out. What we're looking for is bone support. That means that we're trying to support our body with bones, not muscles. I'll rest my head on my stock, and that'll eliminate a lot of fatigue in my neck. I will also turn my body by raising my leg, and we'll put the right side of my chest on the ground with my ribs, and that'll reduce heart movement. In the next shooting tip segment, we're going to talk about breathing techniques.
We've seen a lot of bulls that size. He looks pretty good, but Cheryl thinks we got a bigger one over here on the other side. We're gonna let these two guys walk, keep hunting. The rain's back at us. Nate's trying to keep his camera dry, and we're trying to keep from getting too wet, so we'll keep hunting.
Same for next year.
Yeah.
Well, we went to the back end of the ranch, and we went up. We heard elk. We knew the elk were right there, so we went up on the ridge to try to get a visual on them. And we have a big long field that, you know, a couple thousand yards long. You can shoot all the way down it. You know, we were just hanging there, waiting for the wind, waiting to see what we needed to do. And we got a visual on one bull, and we waited a while longer, and then the wind swirled and busted us, and so then we were out of it there at that time.
Once you've got the correct body fitment, you're comfortable with your rifle and how to get in behind it quickly and comfortably, you're familiar with your shooting platform, it's important to kind of take the next step and understand how breathing affects your ability to make a long-range shot. Essentially, we need to break our shot with zero rifle movement, and our body requires oxygen to exist. So we're going to take and put ourselves in an unnatural situation and stop our breathing. When we do that, we're able to get our rifle steady, but it's not something that we can hold for very long. You've got a natural respiratory pause that allows you to stop that breathing cycle and still maintain, heart rate, maintain focus and execute a shot. Generally, we're talking 5 to 7 seconds. Now, if you go outside of that 5 to 7 seconds, or you're not in that pause state, maybe all the oxygen is gone from your lungs, that you may have a physiological reaction, and you may, increase heartbeat and have some blurring effects earlier. So we want to find that natural respiratory pause. Generally, it's not all the way in, it's not all the way out. It's going to be somewhere in between. For myself, it's about 3/4 the way out, could be halfway out for you. Find that spot that's comfortable and that allows you the longest amount of time to execute that shot. Another technique is to oxygenate your blood before you enter that natural respiratory pause state. So while you're getting comfortable in your rifle, you're getting settled in, a couple deep breaths brings more oxygen in, and that'll also increase that time that you have to take your shot without having those physiological effects to deal with.
We got elk feeding in our clearing instead of somebody else's, so we're getting a little excited. Cows just started popping up. We're looking for a bull right there, 720. It's cold tonight. We just got a chance at a shooter bull. Just didn't stick there long enough for us to get a camera lined up on him and a gun lined up on him, but Cheryl's just gonna circle around this edge. We got probably 5 minutes of good light left for the camera. She's gonna peek and make sure he's not slipping up that valley, otherwise I think we might run out of time tonight.
We've talked about fitment in the stock, grip, cheek, pressure in your shoulder. We've also talked about breathing routine. When we come to the trigger squeeze or that execution of the shot, it's really important that we have a good trigger that's been adjusted properly. I prefer a trigger that's in that 2 to 2.5 pounds for a hunting trigger. Obviously a lighter trigger is nice to break, but it's difficult to control. It's going to surprise you if you're out hunting with a lighter trigger. It's important that we press the trigger straight back. We don't want to have any side pressure on the trigger, and we want to use our index finger only. So if we do those things, we'll be fairly consistent in our trigger pull. Also, our finger needs to interface with our trigger shoe. We don't want to press with the fingertip, and we don't want to be any farther back than our knuckle. We want to be right in between that tip and that joint of the first knuckle. That's the pad of our trigger finger. That's where we want to press on the trigger. It's important that we adjust our grip so that our trigger finger properly interfaces with the trigger. If we choke up real high on the stock, you can see I'm grabbing all the way up into my second knuckle. Or if I relax my grip and slide it back down, you can see I can fit my grip length and my trigger finger length perfectly so that that pad of my finger is precisely on the shoe of the trigger and I'm not crowded on my grip. The last part of trigger control is understanding when your trigger is going to break. A beginner might want to be surprised, and usually when we're teaching kids or we're bringing somebody new into the sport, we're telling them to just increase pressure until the trigger goes off and you're surprised at the shot. An expert is going to put enough trigger time in that he knows when his trigger is going to break. So practice routine by dry firing and learn where that trigger is going to break. Once your trigger breaks and your sear is disengaged from the firing pin, it drops, ignites the primer, powder starts to burn, bullet starts to move down the barrel. Newton's law tells us for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Your rifle starts to come back. So bullets moving down the barrel, rifle starts to move backwards. Your rifle's going to move backwards something like 1/10 of an inch before the bullet exits the muzzle. Now that gives us a lot of opportunity to torque the rifle, to squeeze the rifle, pick our head off the stock, lift the rifle stock. Lots of things that we can do that cause inconsistencies in our point of impact. Following through with your shot forces us to maintain that pre-firing position and condition so that our shots impact consistently, shot after shot after shot. For me, following through is a simple mental technique of forcing myself to see and to visualize that shot impact the target. I maintain my shooting position. It forces me to keep my eye open so that I can see the shot. I have a tendency to close my eye and try to grab a shot. That's a good mental game for me. It forces me to keep my eye open. Also, it forces you to keep your cheek down on the stock. A lot of shooters shoot and then lift their head off to see where the shot hits. Now pretty quick, you're lifting your head up before the shot is completed, and that's causing maybe a low impact on your target. So keep your cheek down, keep your eyes open, and try to see and visualize that impact the target. Following through is a very simple technique that will have a big effect on your consistently when you shoot long range. Now practicing those 4 fundamentals of rifle fitting and grip, shoulder placement, cheek weld, your trigger control, and your breathing techniques along with follow through will make you a better long range shooter. And you can do it in the comfort of your living room without live rounds. Those are easy techniques to practice in the comfort of your home anytime. I'm Aaron Davidson. Join us next week for more long range shooting tips here at Long Range Pursuit.
Okay, tell me what that range is again, Cheryl.
Got 890.
Oh yeah.
That bull wanted to die this morning. Boy, we had it right there behind that tree. I was wondering if he's ever going to come out. Oh, that's awesome.
Nice shot.
The really good news about this whole deal is out of all the places we could have killed that bull, that's going to be about the easiest to get it, ain't it?
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I cannot believe that.
God dang
Look at
it.
him. Look at him lay there. That is beautiful.
Well, what the deal was is that bull wanted to cooperate with the camera guy and wait until he had a really good light. We had a bunch of big bulls this morning, just that 30 seconds to a minute, we just needed another minute to get set up and get them before they slipped into the timber. The bigger bulls on this place got it figured out, head for those cedars when that light starts cracking. So.
This guy'd been screaming. I think he needed some water. He came and took a drink. Then he just came out beautiful. 890 yards. That's awesome.
Dialed it right on. That was easy. Easy stuff.
I thought I could probably get Aaron a little bit closer shot, but with the trees, it just didn't work. We had to get back at that longer shot, so I was nervous, but Aaron made a believer out of me. It was beautiful.
Make sure you practice your shooting fundamentals and you know your equipment before you take a shot like that in the field. We had a good time hunting at Silver Spur Outfitters. I want to thank Trent and Cheryl Snyder. If you'd like to hunt with them, give them a call, visit their website. They've got a very first-class outfit, and they've got some good animals. Join us next week for more long-range shooting here with Gunwerks Long Range Pursuit.